Hi, everybody. This is the security news update for March 17th, and this is Mitch Tanenbaum. In the Security and Privacy Alerts Department, we have yet another new China alert. Um, Apparently, the government has known for a long time that there are backdoors in these digital locks that show up everywhere, and safes and door locks and whatever. It's known to everybody except, of course, the general public. Senator Ron Wyden, who is big into the security and privacy thing, sent a letter to the government saying, "Hey, why don't you tell people about this?" And then he had the audacity to actually publish the letter. Um, the good news is that using those codes does require physical access, but certainly in targeted attacks, that's certainly possible. Um, so, if you really care about security or you have something which has a high security need, those digital locks are not what you want to use, um, especially ones that come from China, but any of them. And if you need help with that, let us know. Um, Apple is allowing downloading apps from websites, from developers' websites directly. They've never allowed this before. This is only true in the European Union, by the way. They're trying to compete with the new EU law, more on that in a minute, but doing it in a way that has zero impact on their revenue. That's a real challenge. Right now they charge developers about 30%. But what they're saying is, well, if you don't want us to take care of your credit card charges, we'll only charge you like 27%. So when you save 3%, there are other deals that are cut which are less than that. But the bottom line is, if you take that 27% platform charge that Apple is not charging, and the 3% your credit card company is charging, you're still paying 30%. Um, and it is likely out of all this that Apple will be the first ones to feel the pain from the EU's Digital Markets Act, which is designed to open the playing field, at least in Europe, for those platforms that are controlled by the big players, like Meta and Google and Apple. Former member of the European Union Parliament says that given all the shenanigans that Apple is doing right now, it makes them a likely candidate to be the first company to be investigated under the Digital Markets Act. As she calls Apple low-hanging fruit. Now, that's a kind of a play on words, but I'm not sure Apple wants to be considered the test case for the DMA. Under the DMA, a company can be fined up to 10% of their global revenue for the first offense and 20% of global revenue for repeated offenses. Now, I say nobody, it's rare they would ever get a fine like that. But, if they try to make a case or a point about Apple, who knows? In Apple's case, that would be about, for the first offense, about $8 to $10 billion. And they probably don't want to pay a fine like that. In the software and hardware section, Google is making changes to safe browsing. What happens is, up until now, they downloaded a list once an hour of hashes of non-malicious website. But the problem is that these non-malicious websites are only live for about 10 minutes. So that means that it's not likely that they're going to catch it. So instead, and they've gone through some interesting shenanigans to try to keep the data anonymous. I think they've done a good job of it. If you're, a privacy geek, then I read the article in the newsletter because they go into a lot of details of how they did that. But in any case, they say that this process where they send the hash of the website wrapped anonymously and encrypted to them, and then they return that same process anonymously. And apparently they do it pretty quickly. They do that in a way they say is 25% more effective. So this is an interesting process they've created, and I think it's probably a good thing, and will make them or their users anyway safer. Apple is also trying to buy with Microsoft for most patches in a given month. This month they released Sonoma 14.4 with 64 bug fixes. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of new features in 14.4. It's mostly just bug fixes as far as I can tell. There are some new features, but not a lot. Excuse me. In the important issues and patches department, chip makers, and this is like all the major ones, Intel, AMD, ARM, and IBM, are impacted by a new speculative race condition attack. And unlike, most of the ones in the past, it would affect one chip maker or another. This was found by researchers from IBM and also the Vrije University in Amsterdam. Side note, my brother is now retired, but the former chairman of the department, this is the computer science department there, and they're calling it ghost race. And a very simple explanation is, in summary, any software like an operating system or hypervisor implementing synchronization primitives through conditional branches without any serialization instruction on that path and running out any microarchitecture, for example, the x86, ARM, RISC, etc., which allows conditional branches to be speculatively executed, is vulnerable, the researcher said. A scan for vulnerable code in the Linux kernel found about 1,300 places that are potentially exploitable in the kernel. So I am sure there'll be a whole bunch of patches going on in Linux land. But in the meantime, and this is a targeted attack. I don't think anybody should lose any sleep over it, but I'm glad they found it. And it looks like this one, unlike some of the speculative execution attacks, this one does have a fix. Now, the problem with serialization is it can sometimes slow things down, but probably not a lot. Next, Fortinet released a whole bunch of security updates for FortiClient, FortiOS, FortiProxy, FortiManager. It's time to patch now if you run FortiGate products. And some of these are being exploited. And probably more of them are being exploited now that it's been announced. Under the Legislative and Legal Activities Department, DoD is about to fire up a new cyber policy office, possibly this coming week. They're not doing this because they want to. They're doing this because Congress is forcing them to do it. And it's called the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Cyber Policy. It may open on Monday, the 18th. The Congress wants one throat to choke inside the DoD, which is notoriously stovepiped. By creating this cyber policy office, they're hoping to have that one throat to choke. The throat that they're going to choke is a lady by the name of Ashley Manning. She is going to be the interim head of that department. And given the elections and the budget and all that stuff, it's unlikely that they will have a permanent person until after the elections next year. So she's going to be running the show for probably a year. Next, under legislative and legal, the water industry wants to write their own security rules. Now, this is not as far-fetched as you might think. The electric industry already does that with FERC and NERC. So, it's probably okay. If Congress gives the EPA the authority, they will appoint a non-government board to create and mandate cyber standards. Now, the challenge with water is that there's 100,000 different water systems. A lot of them are really tiny. There's one here near us that, serves maybe 500 homes, something like that. They just don't have, and they don't have it. They have like one or two paid employees. So they don't have the money or expertise for cybersecurity. So we shall see what happens. On the other side of that, the conservative side of Congress would just as soon abolish the EPA rather than give them more power. So this is going to be a bit of a heavy lift, and we'll see what comes out of it. But, it might be the right answer because right now these water systems are horribly unsecure. Also, the legal department, we may have a compromise on FISA Section 702 renewal. That's the law that allows the feds to spy on Americans without a warrant. They wouldn't call it that, but that's what it is. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats trust the FBI with this capability, which is why it is designed to sunset every 5 years and requires an affirmative renewal, which Congress was unable to do last year. It was supposed to sunset on December 31st. Congress gave itself an extra 3.5 months. It's now set to expire on April 19th. We shall see whether or not this particular proposal gains any legs. What they're saying is you can search it without a warrant, but if you actually want to listen to the content, then you need a warrant. I'm sure the White House and the FBI will not be happy about that. On the other hand, the alternative is possibly to let it expire. Another possibility is the White House could go to the FISA court and say, Mother, may I extend this for a year in the absence of Congress acting? That's in the law. So there's a whole bunch of options that are going on. It's not clear which one is going to be the one that moves forward, but the most likely one is for Congress to kick the can down the road a few months, because that's what Congress does best. And maybe until after the election, in which case some of these Congress critters won't be reelected and it'll be somebody else's problem. Under breaches, the Hauser law firm has been hit with a class action lawsuit after a breach. Not terribly unusual, but this particular law firm usually is the one filing the lawsuits, not defending the lawsuits, although I guess they'd be defend their clients potentially, but never themselves until now. The breach exposed information on 325,000 of the rich and famous. They have some big clients like Citibank and people like that. So I suspect that some of those folks are not terribly happy, and certainly the bank's customers are not happy that all this is going on. And, these lawsuits have the usual complaints: negligence, invasion of privacy, breach of contract, unjust enrichment, all that stuff, which these guys are very familiar with, except usually they're the ones who are throwing the arrows, not the ones catching them. Change Health is I think, finally getting their act together and hopefully getting back to being able to process healthcare payments. But their parent, United Healthcare, had a meeting with the White House, and the CEO of United says that they're now offering fee-free and interest-free loans to hospitals, doctors, and pharmacists who have been affected by their system's meltdown. They won't have to repay the loans after the systems are working again. I'm sure that had nothing to do with the meeting, but nonetheless, that's the consequences of being on the wrong side of a meltdown. Next, the Nissan, the car company, confirms a breach of about 100,000 employees and customers' data. This is down in Australia and New Zealand. The breach happened last December, which is, not as bad as some of these things, but it takes a year to tell us about it. It did include government ITs. It was a malicious third party, so we're all good here. They took immediate action. The hackers apparently like car makers, because they also hacked Mitsubishi, Renault, Skyline, Infiniti, LDV, and Ram. So it's not like there's just shortage of car companies being hacked. Now, it's possible that Nissan is the only one who did not pay a ransom. As a group, it did not leak the data from anybody else. Why do they only leak Nissan's data and not anybody else's? Don't know, but maybe it's because they're the only ones who didn't pay. Next, the feds fined Boeing $51 million for ITAR violations. It's not like Boeing didn't have enough challenges. ITAR is the International Traffic and Arms Regulations. It has the option for both civil and criminal penalties, and it's for companies that either intentionally or unintentionally export restricted information. The thing that's interesting about the Boeing fine is that there was no breach. This is just them not following the rules. So what that's saying is the government is pretty serious about ITAR, and if you have ITAR restricted materials, you better make sure that you're handling them appropriately, because apparently it does not require a breach to get fined $50 million. Next, your car maker may be selling your driving data to your insurance company. This kind of came to light where somebody their insurance went up about 20 or 30%, and they tried to get insurance from another car company or multiple other car companies, and they discovered they all wanted basically the same price. And one of the insurance companies told them that's because they're buying data from the data brokers, and that data includes this person's driving habits, like how fast they drive, how hard they brake, stuff like that. With these smart cars that are out there now, you can get a lot of data. One of the data brokers is LexisNexis. They do fall under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, so you can tell them not to sell your data, which I did, and you can also do a copy of your data if you want. Next, the FCC has released a voluntary, what they're calling cyber trust mark. It's a mark to put on consumer electronics, connected consumer electronics. Now everything seems to be connected from your dishwasher to your toaster. And even though the standard is voluntary, companies like Amazon and Best Buy have signed on, which makes it much more important for consumer products companies to go follow the standard. Because let's say, for example, Amazon were to say, we're going to put trust mark items higher up in the rankings, or Best Buy says, you know what, we're not going to go off and show consumer devices that don't have the cyber trust mark seal on our ads. That could be bad news for these companies that don't comply. So, the government would like this to become an international standard. We shall see if it goes that way. But they got some heavyweights fighting for them. So I think that's a good deal. And in this week's News Bites, there is no honor amongst crooks. Not that is news. One of the ransomware hacking groups decided rather than to give the money to their affiliates, they would just take all the money and shut down operations. The affiliates are not terribly happy. The affiliates still have the data, and they're saying, gee, even though you paid the ransom, we're going to publish your data anyway because we didn't get paid. Next, an activist group is attacking the French government networks, which this is particularly is a denial of service attack. So in terms of losing data, it probably doesn't have much impact. On the other hand, there's a million people who use these networks and as employees. And so they're not getting any work done until this happens. In the insider threat department, an ex-Meta VP has been charged with stealing proprietary information. He quit the company, was going to go work for a startup, and thought he'd go take blueprints and specs and contracts and all kinds of stuff with him on his way out the door. By the way, this is not terribly unusual. He just got caught at it. But Meta has enough controls in place that they were able to detect what he was doing, and they're then too happy about it and going after the guy. Next, the FCC has set a new standard for broadband. The last standard they set was in 2015, which in internet time, cell phone time, that is 25 megabits down and 10 megabits up, I think. The new one is 100 meg down and 25 megabits up, which puts us, kind of in the top 10 countries in terms of fixed internet performance. The numbers are different for wireless. I think it's 35 and 3. We're not even in the top 10 for wireless. So that's a good thing. And, we hear all the times about these cell phone number takeovers. If you ever wondered how much that costs, apparently not very much. An executive at an unnamed telecom company in New Jersey, probably coincidentally, but Verizon's headquartered in New Jersey, was apparently in on the game and was willing to do SIM swaps where they take your phone number and assign it to a different phone. And they were paid $1,000 for a number to go swap SIM, which is not very much, especially if you wind up like this guy is going to be in jail for a number of years. In theory, he was also supposed to get a percentage of the take. So if these guys were really effective, then maybe you get more than that. But right now, you got $5,000 in Bitcoin and a free stay at the Fed's Crossbar Hotel. And so that's really all we have for today. If you need help with anything, like, for example, protecting ITAR data, please reach out to us. Otherwise, until next time, stay safe And thanks for listening.
Thank you for watching. For more information or to purchase this or any other of our board or executive services, visit us at cybersecurity.com. Call us at 303-887-5864 or email us at rh@cybersecurity.com. Goodbye.